Sulfur cycle. Sulfur is the 10th most abundant element in the universe. It is a brittle, yellow, tasteless, and odorless non-metallic element. Sulfur is found in all living organisms as a constituent of some proteins, vitamins, and hormones. The majority of Earth's sulfur is stored in underground in the rock and minerals, including as sulfate salts buried deep within the ocean sediments. Sulfur cycle interaction with life. Sulfur releases through volcanic eruption or weathering of rocks. Sulfur comes in contact with air and then converting it into sulfate. The sulfate is taken up by plants and microorganisms and it's converted into organic forms such as proteins and vitamins. As the organism gets eaten, it moves up the food chain. Sulfur cycle in the atmosphere. So, sulfur get released into the atmosphere from the natural resources. Sulfur eventually settles back in the earth or comes down within rainfall. A continuous loss of sulfur from terrestrial ecosystem runoff occurs through drainage into lakes and streams, and eventually in ocean. So some of the sulfur falls the depths of the ocean, combining with iron to form ferrous sulfide, with its responsible for the black color of most marine sediment. So the effects of sulfur cycle in nature. Sulfur is one of the processes that allows natural weathering and other natural processes. Sulfur also does not allow acid rain because it regulates the amount of sulfur present in the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. Also, sulfur acid forms sulfuric acid smog when mixes with water vapor. The human effect. Since the Industrial Revolution, human activities have contributed to the amount of sulfur that enters the atmosphere. Emissions from these activities, along with nitrogen emissions, react with other chemicals in the atmosphere to produce tiny particles of sulfate salts, which falls as acid rain. However, a particles and a tiny airborne droplet sulfur also act as a regulator of global climate. For further understanding in sulfur cycle, I provided a video that we can watch.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science and the Sulfur Cycle. All living things require sulfur in order to make protein. Let's take a look at how sulfur cycles itself around the Earth. First, sulfur reserves are found in the lithosphere and are released by weathering. In addition, hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide gas is released into the atmosphere by volcanic eruptions, hot springs, and the decay of biological material in swamps and bogs. Marine algae produce dimethyl sulfide that enters the atmosphere as tiny droplets. Sulfur dioxide gas also forms when dimethyl sulfide reacts with oxygen gas. The burning of fossil fuels also releases sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Sulfur dioxide reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere and creates sulfur trioxide. The sulfur trioxide reacts with water in the atmosphere to produce sulfuric acid. Sulfur trioxide also reacts with the ammonia in the atmosphere to produce sulfate salts. The sulfuric acid and sulfate salts fall to the earth by precipitation like rainfall. The soil absorbs this sulfate salts. Plants then absorb the sulfur by absorbing the sulfate salts from the soil. Animals in turn get sulfur by eating the plants, and the animals release sulfur when they decay. As animals decay, they release sulfate salts and hydrogen sulfide. Anaerobic bacteria breaks down the hydrogen sulfide into sulfur gas, and the aerobic bacteria converts the sulfur into sulfate salts, which again the plants absorb. And then, like any other cycle, it just keeps going around and around. So there's the sulfur cycle. Thanks for watching, and remember, kindness multiplies kindness. Be kind to somebody today.